Alright, so today we're going to talk about CLion, which is a cross-platform IDE, and today we're going to use a Mac to show just an IDE that they can run. So when you first pull it up, it looks like this, and so we're just going to make a new project. We'll call this a shape, and we'll just end up making like this shape class. You can change your language standard or whatever you need to do. We downloaded this from JetBrains, and that's where we found it. It's right where the resharper tool and a lot of other stuff is there. When you first pull it up, it automatically does this for you, and we'll just get rid of the hello world, and so you can do a lot of stuff. But it always has the CMake list text file, and this right here holds where all of your files are like named, and so like you can just add files through here, or you can just do it like you do in Visual Studio. A lot of this looks similar to Visual Studio. I'll give it to Daniel, and he can talk about some of the settings you can change.
Alright, so some of the cool things of CLion is you can change basically how your code looks. You get this code style editor, and you can change the margins, you can change the templates of the code. You can, if I can find it, here we go. You go into code style C++. You can change spacing, blank lines, wrapping and braces. You have a lot of different options. Your spaces right here. And it really gives you a way of customizing all of your code, which is really nice. And yeah, that's one of the big things. Yeah.
Okay. So the first time you open it and create a new project, it can take a little while. But it looks a little bit like Visual Studio with all this stuff over here. Here's all your libraries that you can include and stuff like that. So I'm just going to make a new class. So you can click over here and say new and then class, just like in Visual Studio. Let's make a shape class. Say OK. And so it already has this stuff, which is basically the equivalent of a pragma. And so we can make a public function. Let's just make this just this one function in this class. We'll have a virtual int area constant equals 0. And so that's all that we're going to do here in the shape class. And see, this is where all your files are, and it already has them in here because it's in the same directory. So then in here you can even like look and jump around to different files. Like I just jumped to the main file. And so in here we can make a new another class. We'll say this one is a rectangle. So you hit OK, and it already will pull up like your class definition. But you'll need to change this because we're going to make this like a child class of the parent, which was shape. So we'll say public shape. And then we'll declare that it has let it have some default private members. And it'll be int height and width. And so then you can just do some shortcuts, and you'll make you can make some implementations with those. Why it's doing that.
There we go.
Okay, and see, it's already like testing this, and it's saying we don't know what shape is, and so it even says, do you want to inherit from shape? And so you can just hit Alt Enter, just like in a restriper, and it'll include it for you. So then we can just generate a constructor. And we want a constructor for both height and width. So we'll say OK, and it just makes one for you straight up, just like that. And we can do the same thing. We can get some getters and setters. You want to select them both, say OK, and there it goes. It makes getters and setters. We can even just have it defaultly make the area function, so it'll ask you what function you want to implement. Say OK, so it pops up right here, and so here's where we can implement the area. So area of the rectangle is just going to be width times height, and that's all. That's really all it takes. That's all we're going to do. And so then we can go back to the main, and we'll include rectangle.h. And I'll give it back to Daniel, and he can kind of do a test program and see what all it does.
So we're going to create a rectangle R. We're going to pass in height and width of 3 and 4. And then we want the area. We'll say, let's just see out r.area. And you see the red, it's saying, we don't know what cout means. So we're going to just do this. All right. Now, if we tried to do something like a r dot perimeter, we tried to see out that, just use see out as a verb. See out r dot perimeter. It's going to be unhappy with this because we don't have that function yet. Parentheses. So let's see if it'll do it. Maybe. There we go. All right, so it doesn't have that. So we can create a new function. Let's just create. We go over to our. We put in rectangle. Okay.
I think it's an ocean function.
Oh, that's not what we wanted. Okay, so okay. Let's just do. We're just gonna do it by hand. That'll be easier. All right, so we're gonna do. Where's my area function? There it is. I'm just gonna put it here. We want. Let's see. Oh. EDR. Okay, and we'll just return 2 times height plus width. Sorry. All right, so that should work. Hmm?
You can probably use it.
Yep. And let's just, and you can, there are lots of different ways. You can just press, I believe, yep, just click run. And there we go. Area of 12, perimeter of 14. And it acts, CLion acts a lot like Visual Studio, and it has a lot of the same, um, it finishes code for you, or it gives you suggestions, just like Visual Studio does. So it's a good, it's well reviewed by a lot of people for use by Mac users. So there you go.